Phrases like Nazi Germany can stop a conversation instantly. Public health officials managing a pandemic are not historical monsters, and losing a job is not the same as being transported to a concentration camp. Historical comparison loses its utility when we inflate a similarity in one single dimension into equivalence in every dimension. These railway tracks represent a horrific endpoint. Long before the gas chambers came words, categories, bureaucracies, and the diffusion of responsibility. By focusing only on the final atrocities of the Nazi regime, we stop looking at the earlier processes by which ordinary societies become capable of things their citizens once considered impossible. Aviation investigators don't wait for a plane to hit the ground before becoming concerned about a failing dial. They identify the chain, a disregarded warning, an over-reliance on automation, a failed safeguard, long before the crash occurs. History serves as an early warning system. It allows us to recognize the subtle, bureaucratic failures and social mechanisms that enable grave abuses of human beings before those failures become catastrophic. The first link is categorization. Millions of individuals with vastly different medical histories, beliefs, and personal circumstances were flattened into a singular social category, the unvaccinated. Once categorized, generalized characteristics attached to them, selfish, ignorant, or dangerous. The category itself purported to explain them. This friction often occurs when disagreement about a policy is treated as evidence of a defect in the person disagreeing. Instead of asking if a citizen has a point, institutions begin asking, what is wrong with this person? This moves the process into motive attribution. Institutions funded intense academic research into why certain groups wouldn't comply, treating their own credibility as a constant, while framing citizen skepticism as a variable requiring a psychological diagnosis. When critical reasoning is pathologized as a defect, institutions insulate themselves from accountability. They no longer need to persuade, they only need to justify coercion. That justification leads to behavioral leverage. The governing principle is a simple equation. Resistance plus a sufficient imposed cost equals compliance. To force that compliance, the requirements of ordinary life, employment, travel, and social participation become leverage. Mandates were designed to make life sufficiently difficult that individuals would eventually abandon their objections. This system requires information control. It depends on blurring the distinction between information that is factually false and information that is factually correct but might reduce public compliance with government policy. When government officials influence the information environment surrounding their own policies, misinformation control quietly shifts into a tool for behavioral management. Authorities are often absolutely convinced that allowing citizens to hear the wrong ideas will produce incredibly harmful consequences. But a government capable of determining which scientific claims citizens may encounter possesses an extraordinary and dangerous power. The machinery of coercion doesn't require psychopaths or monsters to operate. It is built by thousands of ordinary people, administrators processing forms, tech managers enforcing standards, and employers implementing policy. Each person can sincerely believe that their tiny part of the machinery is reasonable and serves the public good. This is the unsettling reality of bureaucratic systems. They rely on vast numbers of people who can explain why their particular task is entirely necessary, even as the isolated person on the receiving end of these policies experiences the massive, crushing combined force of the entire machine. To evaluate these mechanisms objectively, we have to strip away our political loyalties and test the consistency of our own principles. Remove the specific names and parties that dominate the current era. Remove Joe Biden. Remove Donald Trump. Imagine instead a future crisis where your worst political enemies control every institution. Give those enemies the exact same emergency powers. Give them the authority to condition employment on a medical decision, to suppress information they deem harmful, and to categorize your own dissent as a danger to society. If these powers suddenly feel dangerous in the hands of an opponent, It suggests our commitment to civil liberties might be tied to our team rather than our principles. If we only support the machinery when we are the ones operating it, then we have already discarded the very restraints that are supposed to protect us. Civil liberties and constitutional restraints function as emergency equipment. They are designed to hold firm during a crisis, specifically when the majority is convinced that violating the rights of a minority serves the collective good. The administrative signatures on this historical decree document the early stages, the categorization, the economic exclusion, and the loss of due process that occurred long before the final tragedy. Waiting until a situation looks exactly like the Holocaust to sound the alarm defeats the entire purpose of studying history. By then, nearly every institutional safeguard has already failed. We honor the victims of the past by recognizing the warning signs in the present, specifically while the people operating the machinery still believe they are the good guys.